So, welcome to Mastrius and to our Meet the Mentor with Ishita today. We'll be talking about art and her philosophy for teaching and learning a little bit more about her journey as an artist. I'm Anna Zanella. I'm a navigator for Mastrius. I have been a member and navigator for 3 or plus years. I've worked with different mentors um, in mentorship groups, and that has changed the way I approach my art in many senses. And that's what Mastrius is all about, like turning artists into masters, learning different skills, asking the questions that they are interested in, and so on. So our mentors offer this Meet the Mentor events for free. So we have an opportunity to peek into their creative practice and see how they approach mentorship. So it's always so exciting to host these and like show out to people what these mentors, how amazing all these mentors are. I am super excited today to present Ishita Banerjee of Soul Curry Art. So you might know her as Soul Curry Art online, and she's one of our new mentors at Mastrius. She's a lifelong artist, dreamer, enthusiastic learner, and a color addict. And I can say the same thing I think about myself, a color addict. Her art is inspired by the Cubist movement in a mid-century and Bauhaus style. Everything that she creates is conceived and created in her home studio in Montreal, Canada. Her group will be launching at Mastrius June 11th, which is the second Tuesday of every month, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Mountain Time, which is also 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Yeah, so I'm excited to have you here for us to have a conversation about your journey, Ishita. You have been an artist for over 30 years and has worked in many different mediums and combined lots of different things. So how about I'll pass it on to you and you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anna. And it's a privilege and a pleasure to be here speaking with you and starting this journey of mentorship with Mastrius. I've only heard amazing things about Mastrius. I've met a few of the artists, members who've been part of the community, and just had a chance to see the amazing work that is being done behind the scenes. And I'm very excited to be a part of this mentorship network and just meet a lot of different artists at different points in their careers and see what we can do together as a collective. So, like you said, my style is I call myself a modern cubist. So my style is definitely influenced by cubism, but I also pepper it with a lot of mid-century modern influences, with Bauhaus shapes and intense, rich, bold color. My color palette comes from my roots because in South Asia, I grew up in South Asia. I had my influences all come from there, and the rich motifs, the colors, the tapestries, the foliage, the lush landscapes, the people, the festivals. I can just go on and on. The food has all inspired my color palettes that I use. I'm also, while on one hand, I definitely think of myself as a maximalist, I love using bold color. The other side of me also uses a lot of minimalism. I try paring things down, working with the bare bones, like we say, because one of the things that I learned is as an artist, there's always room to experiment. There's always room to grow, and the more you play within a style, the more you try and make it your own, the more inspiration it presents itself to you. So that has been my philosophy right from day one. I call myself an enthusiastic learner because I feel like there is nothing that I don't want to learn when it comes to art, whether it's technique, whether it is a composition, whether it is marketing, whether it is using new tools and materials that are available. And as somebody who has, been on this path of being a full-time artist and embraced media and done the business side of things, I also bring with me this experience of being a full-time artist, an entrepreneur, because the minute we put our art out there, whether we like it or not, we all become, part of this huge collective of being an artist who's out there trying to sell their work. So I bring with me business knowledge as well. I launched my company Soul Curry Art about 8 years ago. It's exactly 8 years, in fact. So 8 years ago, I launched my company. I loved calling myself Soul Curry because it was a little bit of an homage to where I came from. Curry being, a big part of where I grew, and art being, my soul. So it was a little bit of, who I am and where I come from, taken together and put into this moniker, which I call Soul Curry Art. But what has also been very interesting is that it's been a conversation starter. Whenever people see Soul Korea, they're kind of intrigued and they kind of want to know a little bit more about why Soul Curry, why is the name? It brings, a smile onto people's faces. And they get kind of intrigued to know a little bit more about the artist's story. So that's been a very interesting way of looking at the business side of things. I'm also a trained artist. I went to art school. I have a BFA and an MFA. I studied fine art and applied art. I have a diploma in visual communication and illustration also. So I did a lot of, art has been something that I have been deeply passionate about. And going to art school has also helped me learn about art movements from the past, understand techniques, methods, the different, the media surfaces, printmaking, photography, art, painting, collage, different kinds of things have always been a huge part of my experimental process when it comes to developing an art style. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me.
So I just listening to you talk, I have two questions for you, or I guess something maybe you can expand a little bit more. So you were talking about being an enthusiastic learner. I think that has also an impact of who you are as a mentor, right?
Absolutely.
Because learning and teaching go together, and just having that feeling that you always have things that you can get better at, or that you can explore and integrate to your art, says a lot about who you are as.
Exactly. I completely agree because I feel like after a point of time when we learn something, I think we get very comfortable in what we know. And that's, I think, where the impetus needs to be more to be pushing and blurring the boundaries, because as technology evolves, as people evolve, as markets evolve, as art evolves, we as humans evolve. So does our learning and growing and the expansion that happens at that intersection of where we already are and where we aspire to grow and be. So there is always room to learn, no matter how skilled you might be at something. There is always room to learn something new, or hear other people's experiences, see what other people are doing, and just be inspired. It may not be exactly, your trajectory, but there is always room for inspiration. And that's where I feel critical thinking happens. That's where we start asking questions. That's where growth happens. Like they say that the growth happens, right outside your comfort zone. So that is exactly where I see, where we are blurring what we already know and where we want to go. That's where the maximum growth happens. And if you're having fun doing, learning in that process, learning in that periphery, that's where I feel like artists get the maximum inspiration, and that's where phenomenal work happens.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I have I think we talked about a little bit last time, me and you, when we met. So you were talking about creating Soul Curry Art, your company, and how that like art is very personal, I think, for a lot of artists. But you were talking a little bit about having also that separation of what is your art and what you are as an artist.
Yes, I think that's also something that I've also navigated and learned because when I started my company, I kind of had I had this internal conflict because my art is very personal. It is emotional. It is derived from a lot of experiences that I observe, either personally or through experiences. And I wanted a little bit of a separation between the artist and the art brand. And when I was looking at that and I was thinking about, the different aspects that make an artist who they are. And I wanted to showcase a different side of me, a different side of me through the art. And I wanted it to be an art brand in itself. So when I thought of my company name, I did not use my own name. I wanted to have that brand identity, which then helped me, work on branding on different platforms, on social media, my website. So I was able to take that, and that separation allowed me to be who I was behind the scenes, while the art became the face of Soul Curry Art. So it was a little bit of both. It's been a phenomenal experience because I've been able to separate the personal part of it. I've been able to look at it as a business at times. When we're looking at selling, or when you're looking at business side of things, often it's very hard to separate personal from business. So having that separation has helped me to think of Soul Curry as a business. While the art continues to be personal, it continues to be what it is. It continues to evolve. So, the evolutionary process is definitely a big part, but it's also helped me really see the world through the branding side. And I really enjoy that aspect of it as well.
Enjoying the video? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when new Mastrius videos are added.
I have a question for you about your process and the things, materials and things you use. I know that you use a bunch, or that you rely on a bunch of different things. You have done painting, mixed media, and merging all of that with digital, and launching yourself into the NFT world, and all of that. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. And I think it all boils down to the fact that I'm always an enthusiastic learner, wanting to learn and grow. Like a lot of us, I've been a traditionally trained artist. So when I went to art school, and I'm dating myself here, and I went to art school almost 30 years ago. So it was the time where we did not have digital technology available to us. Even typography was hand done. Even everything that we were doing was done by hand. I even did photography in a dark room, developing my own film. So it was very interesting to see the evolution of technology and how it has come into our lives. For my technique, I've always relied on traditional methods first. So my surfaces are usually paper or canvas. To be honest, I love paper. I love the versatility of paper. I love the absorbency of paper. I love the flexibility of paper. And canvas and paper have been, my surfaces of choice. I use pretty much anything that I have at hand, and that's what I mean, where play comes into the part. I am not very fastidious about just using one kind of a brand or one kind of paint. So I use acrylic paints, I use acrylic inks, I use mixed media, including oil pastels, oil markers. I've also used collage a lot in my work. And over the course of the past, I think 10 years, I've also started adopting digital technology. What that means is I have an iPad. I also sketch continuously on my iPad. I have Procreate where I started working. And once I started using digital technology, it allowed me to experiment on a different side of things. Like digital technology allowed me to use very bright colors. It allowed me to use music. It allowed me to animate things. So I was able to bring a whole different dimension to an already two-dimensional practice that I had established. And it was fun. It was fun exploring. It was fun to see how can I take this and make it something else. How can I take this and imagine if it was on a billboard at Times Square, how would that be? What would the colors be like? So I was able to really play and experiment. And that's where I feel like I did a lot of work bridging the two worlds together, the traditional with the digital. And since 2021, I've also been one of the leaders in the NFT art space. And a lot of people get really scared hearing the word NFTs, associating it with a scam or thinking that it is, a really a four-letter word. But let me assure you that it is not. There are people like me who have been championing NFTs. That's a whole different, ball game conversation. And I'm always forefront of learning, of explaining, of adopting new technologies and moving forward. I'll always be a traditional artist at heart. There, I'll always be. I call it medium agnostic. So I will never choose one medium over the other. I'll keep going back and forth. I'll keep trying, keep experimenting, and that's where I feel most of my growth has also happened. That I was able to take that step forward, where a lot of artists had hesitated, and I'm just trying to demystify it. It's not as hard as we sometimes imagine in our heads. I had to get over that hurdle as well. I didn't want to be intimidated by technology, and I had to learn. I learned, and I did, and I speak from experience when I say that it's been a very rewarding journey.
Yes. Thank you for that. I love that intersection of all different media and playing with the digital and seeing what's out there, because like art is also always evolving and right, bringing artists different mediums to play with or things to explore. Let me ask you about your inspiration. Where does the inspiration come from for your work?
My inspiration comes from my love of observing people. So I love the nuanced relationships and interrelationships that exist around us, whether it is with our own self, whether it is with the people who are closest to us, or whether we are, in a large group. The way we interact and have interrelationships is something that really fascinated me right from the beginning. And as I kept exploring this, the recurrent themes were like we are all more common than we think. We have, we might look different. We may be from different geographical areas. We might be different, in our skin color, in the way we present ourselves. But at the same time, the basic human emotions remain completely the same, whether you're from anywhere in the world, whether you're, whatever you identify as. So, understanding the similarities and the complexities that make us who we are in this vast humanity that we inhabit. So that's kind of been my exploration. I love looking at the face. I love looking at eyes, because in my culture, I come from the South Asian culture. We always believe in the concept of the third eye. We also believe in the concept of looking outwards while looking inwards. So having, playing with the face, breaking it apart, putting it back together, overlaps, some of the explorations that I do. And, my work does tend to get a narrative based a lot. But at the same time, I feel it is also timeless, because as humans, our evolution, even though we evolved a lot, our emotions have been constant. So those are the dichotomies that I explore: the push, the pull, the contrast, the positive, negative. So those are my huge inspirations all the time. And of course, color makes a comeback, because I feel like color is in my blood. And I just have so much fun in the art that I do. I cannot imagine myself doing anything else. So I think I was my inspiration lies everywhere. It could be a piece of a twig lying on the ground. I love looking at the textures. It could inspire a color palette. It could be the aurora borealis that we just saw on Friday, which was intensely beautiful. Never expected to see that, in my on my backyard. So that was fantastic. So you never know where the inspiration is going to hit. So you just have to observe and be keen and be open.
Mm-hmm. So for your figures, do you work sometimes from reference photos, or do you work from memory, or they are like people that you imagine or that you put together? How does that work?
Well, my figures, to be honest, when I started my career, I started as a realistic, because I'm a trained artist, I started with realism. And one of the things one of my professors told me was like, very early on, and it made a huge impression on me, was that don't let abstraction be an excuse of not learning how to draw properly. He told me he learned the basics before you even know how to break them apart. So for me, during my training in art school, we would have life drawing, we would draw animals, we would draw objects. Every week I had an assignment of doing 150 sketches, 150 human sketches, 150 animal, 150, architecture. So for me, drawing is almost instinctive at this point. I don't use a lot of reference photos because I think it's become muscle memory now of doing this over and over again. I kind of have a feel of it, but I kind of use my own body or my own self as a reference a lot of the time. And because I abstract the figures, it's not really based on any particular person, but I like leaving it open-ended. I like being in this semi-abstract state where it's open-ended for people to interpret the way they want. And that's where I think also a lot of the beauty happens, where it's left for interpretation.
Yes, yes. And I think having that perspective on it's open for interpretation, it's personal, it is your muscle memory for how you create. Those are very important things, I guess, for the artists to learn, right? Like that you could help people learn how to develop that for themselves.
Yeah, and there's so many interesting things that I've noticed about myself and the techniques in how we apply color or how we express through color. So those are the things that I really enjoy teaching. When I started before I started my business, I even used to teach undergraduate levels, students. I used to teach at a very prestigious university in India, where I had a huge bunch of students come through me who made art their life, where I really had this wonderful experience of not only teaching but also learning from the students' perspective, also learning what others are experiencing, because as artists, there is so much to be learned from each other, from a collective of community and support that we get. So I think I am just as excited to learn from my students and my members as much as perhaps they are from me.
Yes, yes. And I think that's why you are a fantastic addition to Mastrius. Like when I saw your name coming up in our roster, I was like, yes. Because you do have that sense of creating a community and making every artist a part of your journey as well, right? And sharing your journey with other people.
Exactly. And that's where I think even like when we talk about art, it's not just a relationship between the artist and the artwork, but also the viewer. So it becomes a three-way conversation between the artists, the artwork that they've created, and the way it's perceived, because the interpretation could completely change from what the artist had conceived to the artwork to how it is interpreted and viewed. And as people evolve, as time evolves, as technology evolves, everything evolves, the interpretation of the artwork evolves. And that's what I absolutely find fascinating, that, what I perhaps had thought of and created something at a different point of my life has taken on, a different meaning at a certain point in my life now. So, and how people experience it just fascinates me, because again, that's where the interrelationship happens. That's where literally an artwork takes a life of its own, and that connection between an artwork and a collector through the medium of the art is fascinating to me.
Do you have rituals that you do in your studio every day? How do you balance that, your artwork and the creation, and also the business side of it, and I guess also the nurturing of what's to come, like the experimentation and that, like, how do you find that you balance all those?
So my most fun part is the creation and the experimentation part. So I like, getting the business side done as soon as possible. So the first thing that I do in the morning is maybe I'll deal with all my emails. I'll have a social media plan for, a couple of days. I do plan social media ahead of time so that I am not, not really, if I'm not there in that moment, I do have, a plan. And I feel like you definitely need to have a plan. I would love to talk about having a short term, a medium term, and a long term plan for business growth, for artistic growth, which I talk about. But and the rest of the day, once that is done from 11 a.m. onwards, I'm in Eastern time, so I definitely start creating. I don't have a ritual per se, but I definitely do something every single day. I leave something unfinished on my desk at night, whether it is something digital, whether it is a sketch. I love leaving something unfinished, and I clean my studio at night before I wind up, because I love walking into my studio and feeling that energy, that I'm excited and I want to create and I want to get started on what I left. And most of my ideation happens at night, is when I'm always sketching, writing, taking notes, and that's when my wheels are always churning. And yeah, I just and now with social media opening up, get so much inspiration online. Having conversations, networking, and meeting people in real or online through communities like Mastrius are also extremely important part of, I think, what I do, because this human connection, this one-on-one, really goes a long way. It's one thing to just read something off an internet, but another thing to be really invested in being inspired by another person's journey or story. And that's what I feel like these connections enable us to do.
What are the things that you're excited to talk about, you think, in your mentorship group? And I know, like, mentorship is lots based on what members are looking for and all of that, but like, what are the things that you think are some important things for artists to learn?
I mean, I can speak from my experience of what I am. I think what makes my brand stand out is definitely I have this. I have taken Cubism and I've kind of made it my own. It's not Cubism in its purest sense, but I've also taken different influences and I've kind of made it my style. So finding that style and identifying how that works, why it works, and finding the nuances of composition of the positive and the negative spaces. I don't leave a lot of negative space. The negative space in my composition becomes the positive space. So it is one huge composition. There is hardly any negative space in what I do. So I love playing with the negative space just as much as the positive. So that is something that I love working with, because it kind of intrigues, keeps the composition very, fluid, and it makes it very intriguing. So that's something I really enjoy teaching. Color is another one of them. I love expressing through color. So, the emotions of color. Why do I use particular color the way that I do? How do I choose a color scheme? Why do I use a particular color the way that we do? Because that's definitely there. and the business side of things, because I've really struggled with, understanding the business side of, being a full-time artist and what that entails, whether it is marketing, whether it is licensing, whether it is opportunities, whether it is public art, whether it is applying to different places for, exhibitions, and also how to bridge the traditional art career with something that is future looking, with whether it is digital technologies, whether it is understanding what NFTs are, and whether your art fits into that, whether it is something that people are excited about. Because I took the leap, I understood it, but somebody might be curious about it. So I could definitely be talking about that, the business side, the digital side, and just this keeping up with wanting to learn versus being comfortable in your own style is also something that I feel enables you to push your artistic growth, which then pushes your career forward also. So those are some of the things I would love to talk about in my courses, in the mentorship program. But also I could tailor it based on what more of the artists or more of the members in the group are wanting to learn from me. You can, I think most of the members can take a look at my socials. I post a lot of reels, behind the scenes footage. I make my own videos. I don't have any help. I'm a one-man army. So I make my own videos. I write my own copy. So yeah, it's a journey, but I really enjoy the journey, and it feels less stressful when you start enjoying it a lot more.
And I think it's a lot about the mindset as an artist too, right? Because lots of people think, well, if you paint or you are an artist, but it's not just that. Like there is the learning, there is the experimentation. Maybe you don't paint, but you do something else, right? And just as you become a professional artist and you're selling work, then there's a whole nother level of things that you have to be doing, right? And embracing them all is part of.
And somebody who's done it all, when I started, I did it all. I applied to street shows. I sold cards, greeting cards. I sold paintings. So I come from that. I come from the mindset of being prolific and continuously doing the work that makes you really happy. Because I feel like, and I talk about that a lot in my mentorship group about how to identify who your audience is, because your kind of artwork may not speak to everybody, but it will speak to a certain group of people, and they are your community. So how do you nurture that relationship? How do you foster that? How do you grow that? So whether it's on social media, whether it's in real life, whether it's through galleries, so it's a different different ways of approaching the same thing. And I can speak from my experience of what's worked, how that works for me. And I'm really looking forward to sharing that with the community.
Very cool. I know I am super excited for this group to start. And I'm sure we'll get some fantastic people. We'll put some fantastic.
I am looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. I love your style. I love how you brought, the fabric, the textile, the fiber art into your pieces. I love your use of color and texture. I think I'm deeply inspired by what you do and how you do it. And I think that's what the beauty of a mentorship group is. It allows you to have this one-on-one relationship with people. So, and a long-term relationship. So, you almost become like friends. You'll remember people's birthdays. You'll remember the names of their kids. And, this is a relationship that that becomes your community, and that is the beautiful thing of being part of something like that.
Yes, I had a really cool experience as I was traveling. I live in Canada, but I was traveling like far. I have a son that lives in the UK, and I went to see this art show in the UK. And I'm walking around, and I bumped into this person, and she was one of our mentors at Mastrius that I had met online, but like out of like I did not know. I'm like, oh my God. Like, and we met, and it was kind of like we've known each other because we had met several times online and been in meetings together and all of that. Like, it was really cool. And creating that supportive group of people around you is super important as well
Yeah,
in your journey, right? I
yeah,
guess as
absolutely.
artists, we're a lot in our own studios and doing
Yes.
our own thing, but
And often, for a long time, the art world was very closed off. Like in the sense, it was a competitive space. It was, everybody was vying for these just a couple of gallery spots or just a couple of show spots. And I feel like now with social media opening, with so many different kinds of avenues available to artists, there is no reason why we can't support each other, and why we can't have this cross pollination of our communities, of why we can't grow together. And it is about a lot about mindset. It is about wanting to learn, grow, play. I think play is a huge part. We often forget that when you're looking at things, we're trying to sell, sell, sell. But unless you're really happy, or unless you're really playing within your style, and it's apparent, when you are happy with a particular piece of work, it is apparent to that this is a piece of work that was created from a happy place rather than a place of fear. So this is again something that I talk about in my mentorship group, about how do you let go and create from a place of abundance rather than a place of fear. So it's sometimes it's easier said than done, but I have had to, because I'm speaking from my own experiences of launching, and not everything that we do is always successful, because we always see the success stories, but I also talk about the failures. There's tremendous failure between everything that you see in the front. There are these hundreds of steps at the back that have failed, that we've had to pick up and redo and try again to get there. So failure is not something to be afraid of, and I've made failure my friend.
yeah, and I think that's a great mindset to have, right? Being a place where you can or something that you can learn from and not be defined by, right?
Yes.
To keep going on your work. And yes, absolutely. Like all the when you show a piece of work on social media, you're only seeing the final result, and you don't see all the 30 years of work that went behind it, and all the learnings and all the failures and all the tears
Okay.
and all the laughs and all of that goes to create that one piece, right?
Yes,
That
exactly.
people need to understand and learn from that. Oh my gosh, we talked about so many things. I know I took like tons of notes, and I'm as I said before, I'm super excited for our group to launch. So we are scheduled for June 11th, which is the second Tuesday of every month. How the groups work at Mastrius, we have a maximum of 8 members in each group, plus a navigator and a mentor. We'll meet with Ishita once a month for 2 hours, and then we'll work on, specific questions the group have, uh, bringing work to be looked at, struggles that we're having, celebrations that for good things that happen during the month, and so on. We work the first hour kind of reviewing homework that we had, or bring a piece of work to be talked about, or if we're doing writing, if we want to talk about the writing, and all of that. And then the second hour, then our mentor takes over, brings new content, things for us to learn. I find that a lot of times people have specific questions and things that they want to work on to improve, but lots of times the mentor can see some things as well that need to be worked on that the artists don't even know that they need, right? So yeah, so like, and then we'll have that hour with Ishita bringing us new knowledge and things for us to work on. We usually have homework that we'll do during the month, and it can be part of your own work. It doesn't have to be extra work, but applying those things that we're learning into your practice and into your work. And the other thing that we do at Mastrius, we do a mid-month meeting, which is the members only with the navigator. So I host an informal meeting for people to come, talk about how the homework's going, ask questions. Lots of times people bring a piece of work to, oh, I'm having trouble here, but I can't see what it is. And, you have 8 other people that can give you tips and so on. Or it can be just a social thing. People sometimes paint together for an hour and you just get to know each other and make friends. And then
that's something so beautiful. I love this idea of sketching together because, just knowing that there's somebody next to you who's sketching and who's thinking or who's feeling that moment, right, is really something that is a powerful connector.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, like that would be like, it's going to be amazing. If people have questions or anything, they can reach out to Ishita or me. And all the information for the group is on mastrius.com. And you can look for Ishita as a mentor and get more information about the group and sign up there. Last words?
Last words, I'm excited. I'm excited to grow, in the community. I'm excited to getting to know the members, following them on social media. Just, this circle needs, we complete the circle together. And that's what I'm really looking forward to. Looking forward to getting to know you as well. Just this symbiotic relationship of artist, mentor, artwork, the collective, the community. Those are the words that I think are going to be defining words going forward into the next 10 years of our career. Earlier it used to be an artist and a studio and an artwork or a gallery, but now it's about the community and how we showcase and come together collectively. So I think that is going to be the mantra for the future. And I'm really looking forward to bringing whatever I know to the groups and learning with you and growing with you and meeting everyone and learning a little bit about their stories as well, because a big part of who we are as artists are shaped by the stories that we have and the narrative that we bring there. So yeah, I'm very excited. Thank you so much for your wonderful questions, Anna. It's been a pleasure, and I'm really looking forward to working with you.
Oh, and me too. Thank you so much for all your time today. And we will see you soon.
Absolutely. Right. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.